Hello, everybody. My name is Colton Iverson from Colton Iverson Writing. Colton Iverson 1 on Twitter. My mind just blanked. Anyway, I am here today with an awesome, fantastic guest, Elliott Wink. Will you give yourself an introduction?
Sure. So I'm Elliott Wink. I write science fiction and fantasy. I have 3 titles out right now. Still Life is a science fiction novelette, so it's very short. Verit the Vicious and Other Stories in Antera is a fantasy interconnected short story anthology. And After Io, this one is a science fiction novel, the first in the Farlight series. And I actually have the second one for that coming out on June 7th. So I'm excited.
It is coming up very fast. Okay.
Super soon. Yeah. And so that's the writing side of me, but I'm also a teacher by day. So I teach English and I've been doing that for almost a decade now. I also went and got a master's in psychology. And so I feel like that's been really useful for both my writing and my teaching. So.
Yeah. Well, I definitely have some questions about it. Like I said, I knew you were a teacher. But first of all, and I've told you this on Twitter, but I just think your name is like the perfect author name. It's just because it's unique and it's memorable. I don't know. I just think it's great.
I appreciate that. I was hoping it would be like that.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Well, my first question for you, Elliott, is what inspires your stories?
So, all sorts of different things. I don't think I have a clear point of inspiration. Mm-hmm. I do think that the desire to write is a big part of inspiring my stories. I like to say that one of my biggest sources of inspiration is just the blank page, just being like, I want to write, but I don't have an idea right now. So I just sit down and I wait until I have an idea. And then I just, so I like to tell the story about After Io. So, this one, I was just staring at the blank page, just waiting for something. And the first line came to me. The first line was, Bryn issued a mayday call 6 hours after she killed her captain. And it was just like, all of a sudden I had a setting, I had outer space, I had a conflict, I had a protagonist, and then I kind of built it from there. I'm very much so like a pantser or a gardener. I don't really plan things meticulously out before I start writing. I do think about things in my spare time, when I'm driving or cooking or something like that. Ideas will be moving around, but I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed with ideas, or I don't feel like I get them through certain experiences or anything like that. They more so come out of the desire to write. So
okay. I mean, that's perfectly valid. I think everybody has a different way they write. Mm-hmm. And you saying that first line gave me a little bit of chills right now. So I think I'm going to have to pick up the first book, just the first line right there. That's awesome. I think that's so cool because a lot of authors, they will just struggle and just look at a blank page and just not know what to do. And so the fact that you have that skill or that talent that you're able to do that is really cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think some people might be nervous about not knowing what to do. The blank page is anxiety producing, but I just kind of see it as opportunity. So it's just a frame of mind, I think.
I mean, that's extremely optimistic. Is that kind of how you run your life as well, as you just see blank pages or just really anything with potential? I mean, as a teacher, I would hope you would.
Yeah, definitely, right? Every single kid has potential. And I feel that way when how I run my classroom is I'm always just kind of my favorite thing to do is just have discussions with the kids, and I ask them questions that I don't know the answers to, that I'm like, oh, this is an interesting point of analysis. I don't have a preconceived idea of what can you guys come up with, and they just come up with the coolest stuff. So yeah, I like questions and I like potential. My husband describes me as very happy. So I don't know if that makes me an optimist necessarily, but I think I usually do look on the bright side of things. That being said, I get stressed very easily, but it always kind of filters through pretty quickly. So.
Yeah. Well, you can take your stresses and put them on your characters, and just let it roll off. Yeah, let it roll off.
Yeah, exactly. Catharsis in a way, even though catharsis technically doesn't exist, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean that's actually a perfect segue into the whole psychology thing. So you're living your life, doing well as a teacher and whatnot, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to get a master's in psychology. First part of that question is, why did you go get a master's in psychology? And second part, how does that affect your writing?
So the story behind that is that I've been writing for quite a while. I've probably been writing seriously for 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
But so I knew that writing was a big part of my life at that point. And it turns out in California, so you know how a lot of places have salary schedules, right? You like move down with time, you move over with education. And in California, it turns out it does not matter what you get a master's in to move over on the salary schedule. You can literally get it in anything and you will move over. Okay. And so I just kind of thought a little bit about really what I wanted to do. I was like, I could go get it in English again. There's a lot I don't know, but I felt like I had enough of a good foundation in English to not need to get a master's in it to improve my craft. And so I thought about it, and psychology ended up really being a path that I wanted to explore. So I actually took a couple classes at a community college just to make sure that, because I'd never taken a psychology class before, to make sure that I really liked it. And then I found a program that I could do while I was teaching and learn all of these different interesting things about psychology. So I tried to take a lot of classes that I thought would help in character development. Like I took classes on self and identity and on close relationships between people and all sorts of stuff like that. And I think that it's helped in my analysis of characters in the classroom and with my students and understanding what they're going through. But it also just kind of like filled my cup in terms of all of these psychological concepts that I don't necessarily have to like overtly put into my writing. Like I don't have to think about, oh, she has this specific disorder or anything like that. But they come out, I think, in just an organic way. Like I have an understanding of these concepts, and then they just kind of work their way naturally into the writing. So I think that is reflected, that I do have a psychology background, and I think my characters are kind of realistic in that way, even if they're fantastical. But I don't necessarily like, I'm not like, oh, I want to include confirmation bias in this or like anything like that. It's more organic.
Okay. I mean, that's fantastic. And so it sounds like you really went back to school so that you could really become a better writer. That's kind of what it sounds like to why you got your master's degree. And also, I mean, obviously the pay, is great too, but to help with your writing. And so is writing one of your biggest passions in your life?
It is one of my biggest passions. Yeah, I actually pretty much always wanted to be a writer, like as long as I can think back. That was like the career that I was planning to go to college for. And then just through these very strange series of events, I ended up going in undecided. It was actually the school I was going to. Somebody offhandedly mentioned that the creative writing major was going to be dissolved, and I didn't know that person was just having like a really bad day and didn't actually know what they were talking about. So I ended up going in undecided, and then I was like, well, if I can't do creative writing, maybe English education sounds interesting. And so I went on that path. And so it took me a little while to get back to writing. It wasn't until I started, like at college, I kind of took a break and then got back after college. And I feel like it's been a pretty big part of my life since then too. So yeah, I'd say that it's one of my main hobbies, is writing, and I would love it to be a full-time job someday, but I know that might be like 20 or 30 years away. So we'll have to see.
That's okay. I mean, you have, I'm sure with all your students and being married and everything, you have lots of experiences and lots of examples to pull from to help with your writing. Like you said earlier, kids are extremely creative in how they see the world and what they bring into their lives, and just the random things they say is just it's really funny and cool. Yeah,
it is. Everybody, this is like cliche, but everyone says it, but it is very rewarding working with kids and seeing them grow and your impact on them. And so that's the fun part of teaching, is being with the kids and seeing all of that and having those interactions. But I like to think that it's grown me in a lot of ways. I think one of them is like seeing all these different personalities, how people operate, different ways that people think. But also I feel like I grew a lot of skills that I didn't naturally have. I'm actually a really introverted person, and I used to be terrified of public speaking, like to the point that like my face would get really red, and I couldn't hear anybody else speaking before me because I was just so overwhelmed with what I was going to say, like those kinds of things. And but when you're a teacher, you like have to get in front of people and speak every day. You can't just be like, oh, here's a worksheet. So I chose a profession that I think grew some of my soft skills in terms of like communication and presentation. And I am reaping the benefit of that now because I can talk to you in an interview. So
I mean, I would probably say it's a little easier because we haven't actually met in person, and we can edit this out and whatever. But I'd say you're very eloquent in how you speak. So I think I would have never known that you were introverted and had a hard time with speaking with others. So
Thank you. Like 10 years of experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that really is fantastic. My father is a teacher, and so I understand both a lot of the struggles and a lot of the benefits. And so yeah, he's great. And so yeah, thank you for being a teacher. We need more teachers. We need awesome teachers who actually have passion for it. And so that's really awesome. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Well, another question is, I mean, you have some degrees, you're obviously well-spoken and intelligent, but what do you think authors need to write stories? Do they need a degree, or can they just go and write with passion?
I am blown away by some of the stories that my kids write in high school, in middle school even. I'm like, whoa, this is like a professional, like it just, to me, it's like a well-developed, like could be a professional story. And so it's not that you need necessarily a ton of education, or you don't need like a very specific set of skills. I think it's passion is big. I think that you need to want to do it. And I think that seeking feedback is probably a really big thing too. Because the kids that I see producing the best stories are the ones who ask me or ask their mom or ask their friends to read their stuff and tell them about like what they think. So I'd say feedback is a very important thing for writers, and passion, and then you just like either a paper and a pencil or a keyboard or anything. The nice thing about writing is it's like really low startup cost. It's not like you need all of these tools to get into the hobby. You just need to, have a familiarity with stories, which ideally there'll be other books, but at the same time, our world is absolutely filled with stories. You if you watch TV, you get stories. If you talk to people, you get stories. So I think that to some degree, stories are innate, and it's just practice to getting to tell a better one. Yeah. So.
No, I think that's so true. I cannot tell you how many, I'm part of a few different self-publishing groups, and I cannot tell you how many people don't get an editor, they don't have beta readers, or even just anybody that looks over their story. They just publish it, and I've read some stories. I'm like, there's a lot of mistakes in here that you could have fixed pretty easily, but yeah, but feedback and revision are definitely super important. Hardest for me, probably. I can write the first draft all live long day, but revising is hard. It's hard to stick with it. Yeah.
Is the revising like a kill your darlings thing? Like you don't?
Oh no, I can kill characters. I can cut out parts of the book. It's just like it's sticking with it because it's like, oh, I've already written the story, and it's this beautiful other idea.
You're tired of it, yeah.
I'm not tired of it. I love my stories, but yeah, maybe I'm tired of it. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the passion.
Oh, well, I don't think that's it. No, I think I see that allure of something new. Like, especially if you're an author who is like brimming with ideas, like you probably want to get them out and then move to the next one. I could totally understand that. Yeah. I don't know if this would work for you, but I like to edit as I go. Like I'm actually kind of a slower writer. Like I read a post somewhere recently that somebody was like, I write 2,900 words an hour, and I was like, how do you do that? Even if I was typing as fast as I could, I don't think I'd ever write that fast, just because I feel like I take my time, and if the sentence doesn't seem right, like then I'll try and cut it. Like I won't just try and get all of my stuff out. And even every, so often I'll go back and I'll read the chapter before and do an edit then. So like as I edit as I write, so that keeps me from having to do a lot of editing at the end, which I really like, just because it like feels much more polished. But I know some people also really like to just be like, get it down, get the words down, get them out, before I lose my muse. But I like the slower process, and then the editing at the end is less painful. Yeah. So.
No, I there are times when I do have like a buddy that I write with, and they kind of right when I finish a chapter, I put it up on a Google Doc, and they read through it and like, hey, this is good, let's tweak this, or and so when I have that person to help me, it's extremely helpful. But when I'm writing a lot and I'm getting through it a lot every day, they don't get to it all the time, and so it's kind of hard to do that. But I love that advice. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So okay, I have to talk about A Still Life, because it is just like, I was telling you this before we started recording, but it just blew my mind. So I actually had an interview with another science fiction author yesterday, and he has a short story. It's Nicholas Lemieux. He's on Twitter. I don't know if you know him or not, but his short story is similar to yours in a way where it reminds me of a Ray Bradbury story, where it starts out normal, kind of a normal circumstance in a hotel, and then all of a sudden talking about something, and then boom, it just hits with, oh, the celebrity interviews of 2130, and I was like, what? I did not know I was walking into a science fiction story. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't read the first few pages. A android or robot science fiction story, and it just blew my mind at how well it was done. And so I love that so much. How did you come up with this idea? Were you inspired by Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, or is it something that you've come up with yourself?
Well, I do really like Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
I have read quite a bit, and I teach his stories to my kids. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that I'm directly inspired by any specific stories or authors. I think it more so, again, you're like filling your tank, right? And with all of those things. But I think it was one of those same things where it was like a blank page. I just came up with a setting. So I wrote that one actually probably like 4 years ago. I wrote that story a long time ago. So okay. I can't tell you that I remember the inception of that. Yeah. I actually had planned for that to be a full novel when I first started it, thinking that Addie's arc would be different. And when I got to a certain point, I don't want to spoil it for necessarily anyone, but when I got to a certain point, I was like, no, that's her arc, that's the story. Yeah. And so it ended up just being a novelette. But yeah, I was really happy with that one. That was actually a story that made it all the way to the editor-in-chief at a professional science fiction magazine. Okay. And he ended up turning it down. But that was one of the moments where I was like, I know it's good enough. Like I know that I'm producing quality work. It's just for, one reason or another. It isn't the right fit for the market. And so that one, after a lot of heartbreaking rejections, was when I'm like, I just want to get it out in the world. I absolutely love that story. I love how it turned out. So yeah. Sorry, I don't remember the genesis.
It's okay. It's beautiful. There's just something that, I don't know, it just blew me away. Like, I was just like, no way. And you just did, there's like foreshadowing, and it's just extremely well done. So anyway, I could gush about it for a long time, but so that actually brings me to another question, is when you've gone through so much hope of getting to the top of an editor of like this magazine, how'd you deal with the rejection? How did you go from being rejected to self-publishing? So
I don't think I've told anyone this before. Oh, but I broke down crying. I sobbed because I was so hopeful. Like, it had made it through like several rounds of people. They were like, we loved it, and the rejection was also extremely kind. Like, he was like, I loved it. But and so I was heartbroken. I sobbed. I had like this I don't know, terrible moment where I felt like it was never enough, and then I started. That's, I think, when I actually started thinking about self-publishing. That was when I was like, okay, it's good enough, but it's just, I'm not breaking through. I don't know why. But I had shopped a couple of novels that are still unpublished to agents as well, and never got like a response back then too. So I think I decided, I was like, I'd really like to just get some of my stuff out in the world. And I know that like, this is not going to be the last story I write. This is not going to be the last novel I write. So I don't mind trying self-publishing and kind of seeing how that works, and trying to produce more and trying to get myself out there in terms of marketing and social media and all of that, because I've been hearing more and more that authors, even traditionally published authors, a lot of the marketing is going onto them. Yep. And that was always what I was afraid of. That's always what I was like, I want a traditional publisher so they can just market it for me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I was like, I started hearing all of that, and I was like, well, if I'm going to be marketing anyways, and you know, why don't I try this path? Yeah. So yeah, that was part of it, is that I was getting a lot of rejections, but I knew my writing was good enough for people to read and enjoy. So I decided to get it out there, and I'm going to try this for a while. I was planning to finish, I'm going to write, I think, 5 books in the Far Light series. So the second one is coming out soon. And I'd like to write probably 3 or 4 more in the Antera series, at least 2. I'm working on the second one in that right now. And then I'm going to kind of like reevaluate, see, do I like the self-publishing? Do I want to try traditional publishing? Or maybe I do both into the future, because there's so many advantages with self-publishing. Like, I don't know, you just have so much control over your story and what happens, and how you market. And I've started making my own covers, which I'm really excited about, because that's something that
they look good.
I have control. Well, so these are the ones that are out are not ones that I've made, but the one for District 5 that's releasing on the 7th, I made that one, and I'm pretty happy about it. So it's like it opened up new skill sets for me that because of what's required in self-publishing, that I'm really thankful for. So I'm still really happy with this path so far.
There you go. And I mean, you know, obviously if you know, all the money is yours as well. Obviously you have to put in a lot into the editing and the art and everything that goes into writing a book, but you get the royalties yourself. You, except for Amazon, which, you know, they take their cut, but you get the majority of it. And so that's great. And like you said, you have to market yourself these days, and unless you're like a big crazy author that, you know, can do it all themselves and is able to make millions just off of, you know, one book. You do have to market yourself. So
I would say I've become an expert at that, doing this on a shoestring. I feel like I don't spend a lot on the front end. So it's just,
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Is this possible?
Yeah. Well, Elliott, this has been wonderful. I've truly appreciated your insight and just what you've been able to bring to this interview. What do you want to shout out and tell the people about before we head off?
I just think you should check out my books, guys. They're all on Amazon. They're on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that, it's really, you know, doesn't hurt you to just download it or look at the sample and see if they're for you.
They're amazing. Do it. I've read the samples.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that I just like, you know, people to take a chance on me, and I'm really looking forward to continue to produce and see where this journey goes.
Fantastic. Yes, all of her stuff will be in the description below. When this interview goes out, it will probably be the week of her new book coming out, and so everybody, check it out. But yes, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Check out her stuff, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.